Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my final reading wrap-up of 2024, and that is for December. This is my last time filling out my library card, and last month I was able to read 24 books, and that put my total at a whopping number of 286. Definitely a personal best for me, but something I don't think I'm going to strive to beat, at least in the near future. Yeah, so just finishing out the rest of my journal. We've already completed my 24 to read in 2024 spread, as well as my reading tracker spread. We have also finished a couple of my TBRs, but I was able to notch off a couple of my other TBRs, including my physical TBR, and I read Dragonfall and Evil Eye in December. And for my KU TBR, I read Soul of a Witch and Sanctuary with Kings. Sadly, I will not be finishing my ABC challenge this year. I just could not get to an X or Y book by the end of the year. I do appreciate those who left recommendations in my comments, so maybe I can get to those in 2025. But my favorite book of December was A Rivalry of Hearts by Tessania Odette. And then for our December book club, the theme was penguins, so we chose The Penguin Lessons by Tom Mitchell. And for the final book releases of 2024, there weren't really that many in December. I even had a hard time finding books I was interested in that came out this month to fill this section, but a few of the books that I was able to acquire for December was How to Steal a Galaxy, A Monsoon Rising, A Sky of Emerald Stars, and Heavenly Tyrant. And then I'm just going back and highlighting some of the books that I've acquired since their release. Most of them I got during the big holiday sale at Barnes & Noble and bookoutlet.org. So yeah, I think I acquired my fair share of books this year. I am putting a limit on how many books I can purchase in 2025, so wish me luck on that. And now moving on to the final cover spread for the year. There were some really good books that I read this year, not as good as November. I only had one 5-star read, but I did have quite a few high rated 4-star reads. I also was able to, like I said earlier, check off quite a few of my TBR books, including some KU reads and some physical TBRs. And then as well finish off some of my ARCs that I received for December as well, and even start and finish a couple series. But overall, it was a good way to end the year. Overall, I don't think 2024 was my best reading year for as much books as I read. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but I just had so many high expectations for some of the books coming out this year, and so many of them just didn't live up to those expectations. So I don't know if I should maybe curb my expectations for 2025, but then when I look at the books coming out, it's kind of hard to do. But I am hoping that with some of my reading goals that I have for 2025, which I will talk about in my next video, which will be a full wrap-up of my journal, I'm hoping that some of the goals I set help me have a better reading year in 2025. But for just December, in terms of stats, 15 of the books I read were in the fantasy genre, 13 were romance, 9 were LGBTQIA+, 6 were sci-fi, and 2 were horror. For the demographics, 14 of the authors I read were Caucasian, 9 were LGBTQIA+, 5 were Asian or Pacific Islander, 4 were Black, 1 were Middle Eastern or Arab, and 1 was Latinx Hispanic. And then for the format, 62% of the books I read were on audio format, and then 38% were digital format. For the page number, the majority of them were between the 300 and 500 page mark, and then the rest were under 300 pages. And then for the ratings, I had 1 5-star book, 12 4-star books, 8 3-star books, and 2 2-star books. And then for my own personal tags, I owned 11 of the books. I got 11 of them from the library. 8 of them were advanced copies that I received. 4 of them were on KU. 1 of them I listened through the Everand app. One of them I listened through a 99-cent promotion on Audible, and then the other audiobook that I listened to was through my premium Spotify subscription. But yes, that is my December stat wrap up. Moving on to my reviews, which are actually the previous 2 pages because I completely messed up when I was setting up my journal in advance. So we're just going to go back a few pages and go through those. Alright, starting off with The Last Dragon of the East by Katrina Kwan. 25-year-old Sai leads a quiet life running his family's struggling tea house, caring for his ailing mother, and using his gift to see soulmates' red threads of fate to work as a matchmaker. But his own thread, fraying and gray, has always been a mystery. When dragon scales, sold as a miracle cure, unexpectedly heal his mother, Sai is thrust into a dangerous quest to find a long-extinct dragon. As he navigates magical challenges, foreign lands, and a brewing war, Sai's journey must finally unravel the truth about his own elusive fated one. The red string of fate, often seen in Chinese mythology, is one of my favorites. I love any story that incorporates it, and in this fantasy standalone, it becomes a central point of the plot. Sai is a quirky lead, and as he journeys to find the person on the other end of his fate thread, it leads to unexpected revelations and a very enjoyable story. I gave it 4 stars. Then we have A Monsoon Rising by Tia Guanzan. Monsoon Rising by Tia Guanzan is a captivating continuation of the Hurricane Wars series, blending political intrigue, slow burn romance, and immersive world building. Alaric and Talison's forced marriage, meant to symbolize peace, only deepens their tensions as they navigate conflicting loyalties and simmering attraction. This Southeast Asian-inspired world is vividly detailed with the looming threat of the moonless dark, adding urgency to their uneasy alliance. Guanzan allows Alaric and Talison's relationship to evolve naturally, balancing moments of trust, conflict, and undeniable chemistry. Their connection feels genuine and grounded in shared struggles. Though the pacing leans slower, the deliberate focus on character growth and the intertwining of romance and political schemes make the payoff worth it. When Alaric and Talison finally act on their feelings, it's both intense and bittersweet, making this a great installment in the series. I gave it 4 stars. Then we have Countess by Susan Palumbo, a queer Caribbean anti-colonial sci-fi novella inspired by The Count of Monte Cristo, in which a betrayed captain seeks revenge on the interplanetary empire that subjugated her people for generations. Riga lives in colonized space under the Airbot Empire. After years of working hard to rise through the ranks of the Empire's merchant marine, she's finally become first lieutenant on an interstellar cargo vessel. When her captain dies under suspicious circumstances, Riga is arrested for murder and charged with treason despite her lifelong loyalty to the Empire. Her conviction and subsequent imprisonment sent her on a path to justice, determined to take down the evil empire that wronged her, all while the fate of her people hangs in the balance. I have mixed feelings about this sci-fi novella, mostly because of the ending, but I don't want to deter readers from checking it out. I still think Susan created a pretty engaging reimagining of this French classic. Then we have my favorite book of the month, A Rivalry of Hearts by Tessania Det. They say never bargain with the Fae. They also say don't get drunk on Fae wine. Yet romance author Edwina Danforth has managed a blunder with both on her first visit to the infamous Fae lands. Now she's trapped in a magic-fueled bet she barely remembers with a man she'd be happier to forget. The terms, whoever can bed the most lovers during their month-long dueling book tour wins a coveted publishing contract. I went into this with absolutely no expectations, and it completely enraptured me. I loved every moment of this book. The banter was top-notch, the setting perfect for this rivals to lovers rom-com. This was Divine Rivals meets Bridgerton with a big helping of Emily Wilde. Edwina is a great protagonist, and her counterpart, Will, was perfection. I cannot wait to read the second book in this interconnected, cozy fantasy romance series. I gave it 5 stars. And finishing off the final reviews of 2024, we have Soul of a Witch by Harley LaRue. Everly, once controlled by a merciless god and raised to suppress her magic, discovers a house brimming with power and an ancient demon who promises she can change the world, but at a cost. Callum, a demon who has spent millennia hunting fallen gods and searching for the witch in his dreams, vows to protect her, even if it means risking her soul and the fate of heaven, hell, and earth. Together, they must confront their shared destiny in a battle where love and destruction collide. A fitting and satisfying conclusion to the Souls trilogy, finally getting Everly's story. I think she and Callum are my favorite in the bunch. I love their dynamic and Everly's growth. She develops from a scared daughter to a fierce witch, and Callum supported her the whole way. I hope to read more from Harley in the future. I gave it 4 stars. Then we have Lore of the Wilds by Annalise Branya. In a land ruled by ruthless Fae, 21-year-old Lore's village is trapped in a forested prison. Lore knows that any escape attempt is futile. Her scars are a testament to her past failures, but when her village is threatened, Lore makes a desperate deal with a Fae lord. She will leave her home to organize an enchanted library that hasn't been touched in 1,000 years. No Fae may enter the library, but there is a chance a human might be able to breach the cursed doors. As Lore navigates the hostile world outside, she's forced to rely on 2 Fae males to survive. 2 very different, very dangerous, very attractive Fae males. This has been on my TBR since it came out, and I made it my mission to finish before year's end. This was a typical YA fantasy with a competent protagonist and predictable love triangle, but I still enjoyed the story, the world building, and cast of characters. Enough so that I have book 2 on my list of books to read in 2025. I gave it 4 stars. Then we have Sunbathers by Linz McLeod. Hordes of cannibalistic sun vampires rule the daylight hours, forcing the remaining humans to adapt to a grubby nocturnal existence. When she sacrifices everything to become a sunbather, Queer Soph discovers that the heterosexual commune is not the glowing paradise she'd hoped for, and her new immortal body still yearns for woman flesh. After discovering that the sunbathers are building a solar lamp that will enable them to walk in permanent light, Soph must decide if she's willing to doom what's left of humanity just to finally fit in. This queer horror novella was completely unexpected and definitely not for the faint of heart. There are some very graphic scenes in this book, and while so many questions go unanswered, it was still highly compelling and thought-provoking. Soph is a very selfish character, but has a very satisfying redemption at the conclusion. I gave it 4 stars. And then for my final review of 2024, we have The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. In a world-torn realm, Mei Lin escapes her father's plan to sell her into marriage by disguising herself as a boy and enlisting in the army in his place. Amid relentless training, newfound friendships, and a growing bond with Sky, a prince-turned-comrade, Mei Lin grapples with the constraints of her new life. When a sea dragon spirit offers her power and freedom at a deadly cost, she must navigate shifting loyalties and perilous choices, as the fate of the 3 kingdoms and her heart hangs in the balance. As far as Mulan reimaginings go, this one was quite well done. I was thoroughly engaged with Maylin's journey and all of the shenanigans she got herself caught up in. I did think Song repeated a few too many plot points, but I enjoyed the magical elements and the progression of the story. I look forward to book 2. I gave it 4 stars. And of course, I could not finish this wrap-up without my favorites of the later half of the year. I did a similar spread after we hit the halfway mark of 2024, so I wanted to conclude with the final 6 months of the year, starting with July. My 4 favorite books of that month were Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto, Danye Coyle's Midnight Rooms, In the Shadow of the Fall by Toby Ogundiran, and then The Lost Story by Meg Schaefer. For August, we have my favorite book of the month, which was Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan, but then we also had Running Close to the Wind by Alexandra Rowland, The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Fuego, and then City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaefer. For September, my favorite book was Heir by Saaba Tahir. I also adored V.E. Schwab's A Darker Shade of Magic, the Wild Robot series by Peter Brown, and Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Batstarika. For October, my favorite book was The Scarlet Alchemist by Kylie Lee Baker. I also adored Karen Loichi's The Mountain Crown, as well as Sophia Slade's Night Strider. And then my final fave of the month was the horror book Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. Tasha Suri's The Oleander Sword took the top spot of my November 5-star reads, but it was followed closely by The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim, A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, and The Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Leong. And then for December, as we all know, A Rivalry of Hearts took the top spot, but I also liked A Monsoon Rising by Tia Guanzon, Sunbathers by Linz McLeod, and The Last Dragon of the East by Katrina Kwan. And those are my favorites of the final half of 2024. Here's my full flip through of my December reading wrap up. I just want to thank all of you who have been joining me throughout the year for all of my wrap-ups. I have loved all of you saying that you loved my journals and some of the books that I've recommended. That is definitely the goal when I share my books with everyone, is that maybe I can recommend someone's next favorite book. But I loved this year, this journal, and even though I didn't like all of the books that I read, there were still some really great ones. I have foregone doing a reading journal for 2025, but don't worry, I will still do some other content, I just don't know what yet. And of course, I'm going to do a full flip through of my 2024 journal, so be sure to look out for that video in the coming days. But until then, happy reading everyone, and Happy New Year.